Hello everyone, welcome to Chef H's Kitchen. Today's recipe is medicine in a jar. So what do I mean by that? Probiotics, microbiome, fermentation, these are some of the hottest topics that we read about. And my recipe today is how to pickle your vegetables in your own home. So I have already prepared 2 jars, and this is what we are going to create in this larger jar. I have beets that are pickled and they absolutely smell yummy. I put them together, and I have radish. You can actually take any vegetable and pickle it. I experiment with whatever vegetables I have. The idea is to get a nice rainbow color. So today I will teach you how to do what is fermentation. So this particular contraption here that has a really good description of fermentation and will do a better job. So I'm just going to read it to you, but I'm going to wear my funky glasses. So what is fermentation? Fermentation is one of the oldest and basic forms of preserving food. Fruits and vegetables contain natural bacteria that when deprived of air can suppress and inhibit the growth of those pathogenic bacteria that cause food to spoil. During the fermentation process, these natural bacteria convert the carbs and sugars in the whole food items and into acids that then become an ideal environment to preserve food. Lactofermentation, a process is brought on through the presence of lactobacillus, gives the fermented food and drinks their signature tangy and sour taste, but it also creates the probiotics and aids in digestion. So typically you would use maybe salt. There's some recipes with just salt and vinegar. I'm going to use my Mama Rathi's recipe, which is my mother's recipe, and she has pickled so many things. I found this contraption, which is really a larger mason jar, and I love the size of it because now I can take different veggies and actually layer them, and I love that color. So you then close the lid on it, and apparently this bung you add on to the top. It seals and prevents any air from coming in because it's sealed right here. Then you add a little bit of water and close it. And I'm really excited about using this because the fermentation process obviously will release some air, and it collects right here and bubbles out where the water collects. These ceramic pieces, I've never used it in my pickling recipes, but these are apparently weights that keep all the veggies weighted down so that everything is brined in well. It's made by Kilner. It's my first time using it, so pardon me if I'm not very familiar with it. So let's get started. So today, the veggies that will fill this beautiful jar are my rainbow colored vegetables, each of them providing a different phytonutrient that our body and our cells need. We have here organic cucumbers, organic radish, different kinds of carrots, and organic beets. We don't all have to put them in the same jar. In fact, my mother, the master fermenter, does not put them all together, but it's a pretty jar and we'll put it together, except the beets I will pickle and put in a separate jar to show you that you really don't need this very fancy device. You can just use a simple canning jar and get the same results with for fermentation. The spices that we will include in this particular recipe is avocado oil, apple cider vinegar to add some tartness to start with, and this is the larger mustard seeds that we will crush and muddle, salt. I love adding cayenne pepper. We are a spicy family, so it's important, and black pepper. And that's it. You know, all it requires is chopping the vegetables, mixing it with the right amount of ingredients here on the left, putting it in the jar, covering it, and walking away. Let's get started. The first step in getting started is to obviously open up the packages. You want to make sure you really rinse the vegetables very well. I don't really skin some of my vegetables. I cut off the greens and I use the greens sometimes to make a pesto, but I don't really remove the skin because these are organic and from a reputable place, and I think I can use a little bit of microbes, and we need that for our recipe anyway. So I really wash them well, but I'll chop them up. What I'm going to do for our recipe is chop them up differently. I will spiralize some of them, the others will be chopped, and some will be sliced just to add a little texture to our fermentation. My prep is done. It took a little while doing it, and while many of us would think, wow, that's a lot of cutting, and I really don't have time, my children are, playing, making a mess, or whatever's going on in your life, I try to find a little time for myself. My chopping time is a very, very meditative time for me. I put on my beats. I either listen to a great podcast, but keeping in mind that the Master Shun does not chop off my finger. I'm extremely respectful of it when it's in my hands. Or I just listen to plain music, and it's a gorgeous day today. Gorgeous day outside. And it was just perfect to engage in this. Anyway, I took some carrots and I spiralized it to give some texture. I have cucumbers that I have sliced, carrots, and a different color of carrots. Look how beautiful that color is. Then chopped up some boiled beets. I'm going to pickle this separately only because beets has such a strong color that it kind of stains the entire jar, and so carrots won't look orange, and I really want the rainbow appearance in this beautiful jar that we have. And then we have radish. Radish, if you have not used, has a very, very unique and sometimes a little offensive flavor, but it is absolutely delicious pickled. When you open the jar, you're not going to think it's very delicious. It might remind you of the loo, but it's actually delicious. And look at it. It's beautiful. We have such a great variety of veggies. We have not included any cabbage in it, but that is something else that you could have included. I'm very... I experiment with different vegetables, even the ones that I'm not sure can be pickled or not. I just throw it in. The whole point is getting the veggies in. Next step is what should we do with this? How do we get it in this jar? But what do we do to this? How do we pre-treat these gorgeous vegetables so that we can start the lacto fermentation process? So now we're ready to start our pickling process. I already showed you that we cut up the vegetables, and we have some nice rainbow colored vegetables to go in this large jar, and I'll just layer it. So how do we pickle vegetables? Typically, you would just use some salt. Salt was used to preserve veggies, and so they could be eaten over a period of time. But my mother's recipe, Mama Rathi's recipe, is pretty complex, and her pickling and her fermentation is amazing. So I would like to show you that recipe. Those vegetables, she adds about half a cup of avocado oil. I love avocado oil because it's actually healthy. The jar next to it is apple cider vinegar. It's about 3/4 of a cup. And you can always go ahead and adjust these ingredients once you have mixed them in the vegetables to suit your taste. Then I have 2 teaspoons of salt, coarse salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of large mustard, which will crush in a mortar pestle so that we can mix it into our vegetables, and cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is about quarter teaspoon there. It's optional and it just adds a little spice and fun to our fermentation process. And we will mix all these ingredients in this large bowl and muddle it with this this tool. I don't know how to describe it other than a muddler. It's actually used in India to make rotis, but we'll use it to muddle our vegetables. And muddle is just to sort of get the juices out and get the spices in. And that's it. And then we'll layer it in our jar. As far as beets and radish are concerned, I'm going to use the simple version and not the fancy one with the bung of the canning jars. So we'll use similar ingredients, but obviously much less in quantity, because this is, much less than the collection of vegetables on the left. And we'll just put them in these canning jars. The most important thing is make sure that you have nice, tight lids, because that's what we want. We want the air restriction, and that is when the bacteria help in fermentation. So it kills the pathogenic bacteria, but the lactobacillus in the foods actually do its magic and help ferment our foods. Okay, so let's get started. So getting started, we already looked at our ingredients of spices that'll go in. We've got veggies that I have cut up, but the most important ingredient, never forget when working with food, is love. So my kitchen is filled with love. All right, I'm going to put on my gloves because I am working tomorrow and I would not like to get lactobacillus from my food into my patient's mouth. It's very simple. You put all the veggies in here, you mix everything up and get it in the jar. Well, ideally, I would have loved to layer it, which means I would have had to season each veggie separately and then put it in. But I'm not going to do it for the purpose of this video. We'll just put it in the jar. We'll still get this rainbow color that we want. Now, don't forget, I'm all about peds. Peds is my love. Kids are my love. So get them involved, get them touching these vegetables, helping you cut them, do things with them. Over, avocado oil, apple cider vinegar, and even though I have given you some measurements, you can actually change these measurements. It all depends on your taste buds, Pepper. Honestly, we could have used more pepper. 2 tablespoons of coarse kosher salt, cayenne pepper. You can avoid that if you're very sensitive. And mustard. So what I had done is I had the mustard seeds, but I actually ground it in a grinder. And so you take that and you put that in. So you put these ingredients in and give it a good mix. I love the purples in my food, And the beet pickles are one of my favorite pickles. I've made it myself today. I'm so spoiled having my mom live with me. She makes it. Oh, by the way, this is the muddler. You kind of just break it up a little bit so the spices get into the veggies and the juices of the veggies also come out. You don't want to destroy the veggies, but get it in. We make our own cucumber pickles, and honestly, pardon me, I can't remember the last time I actually bought pickles in a jar. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Let me smell it. I cook by smell, and I think I have said this to you before. It smells really good. The next step is to bring our jar over and drop your veggies in. Drop these veggies in. Look how gorgeous that looks. Get the kids involved in this part. They would love it. They would make a mess. And I know how that would get me, but you know what? I'm learning how to live with it. It's really amazing. Our ecosystem within us and surrounding us is so important. Being a germaphobe and working in an environment where I really clean teeth all day long, it's very difficult to think of how we are going to actually grow lactobacillus in here or in the food, and how beneficial all this is for us. So it's really, really amazing. Okay, so we got that in. Stop it. So we have it all in. Look at the different colors. In about 4 to 5 days, this is going to get pickled, and you can keep this for as long as 4 weeks. We add this on salads. We add this on any sandwiches. I honestly don't use any salad dressing anymore. It is so healthy and it's available, ready to go. It's been prepped already. So the next step is really putting these weights in. I've never done this part before. Ideally, there should be a little bit more fluid in here just because it coats it. But in my recipe, I've already mixed everything in. So I really don't need this to sink the vegetables into any kind of juices. So now the most important thing is you want to cut out the air supply. So you put the lid on, and then this part is called the bung. You put that on and it's nicely sealed. So this is it. You know, veggies are ready for the week. Our family, we're a big family and we eat a lot of veggies. We're a big family, so we usually pickle quite a few veggies. So this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave me any feedback, comments, anything that you may want to add from your experiences so that all of us can learn together. Be healthy and safe. Bye.